The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Playoffs and Phil.
What's up, guys? Dutchie clocking in here. As always, God bless. Go Birds.
Let the celebration begin.
You are now listening to the 302 Birds Eagles postgame show with Jack and Dalt. Proudly powered by TickPick, the official fan experience partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's take it to the show.
All right, Birds fans, you guys know what time it is. The NFL draft. We are so back, baby. Football season's back. Here's how I see it tonight. Honestly, my gut prediction, we all know how Howie Roseman is. Yeah, a little bit of background music, changing some stuff up, trying to experiment with a couple things. I'm going to keep it under 15 seconds, YouTube, see what I did there. But the point is, I see the Philadelphia Eagles going to draft in the trenches. I expect the Eagles to honestly target an edge, a safety, offensive tackle, defensive tackle with those first round picks, first two rounds. Tight end, wide receiver, maybe. But honestly, cornerback, linebacker, I'd be shocked. If this team builds from the line out, they're not changing that now. But I would not sleep, honestly, on the Eagles to just invest more and more. I think my background music's still going on there. I thought I turned that off, so I apologize for that. But anyways, I got a special guest. That's who I'm going to bring in here. Benny, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, Dalton. Back with you here, and man, I'm hyped up on the draft. I was really hyped up last week during the Eagles Autism Challenge. Man, you guys knocked that out of the park.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Well, it was a great event. It was for a great cause, and hopefully it all ties out for a great season again for the Philadelphia Eagles to go through a Super Bowl. Sorry, I'm super thrown off here right now. Once again, I thought I hit that music. I don't know how the hell that turned on. StreamYard is freaking me out right now. But anyway, Benny, let's get into it right now. Let's give the people what they came here for. How are you feeling if the Philadelphia Eagles stay at pick 32, or who are some potential steals that you could see the Philadelphia Eagles taking at 32?
There's a lot of talent in this draft. I think first and foremost, it cannot be stated enough about how deep this draft is at all the positions really the Eagles need. You need an offensive lineman. There's going to be quite a few that are going to be NFL starting caliber offensive linemen in this draft. You need an edge rusher. There's 3 rounds deep of edge rushers that you could put on the field week one and be pretty satisfied with the production you're going to get out of them. You need interior defensive linemen. We have a comment right now mentioning one of them, Walter Nolan. There's a ton of great defensive interior linemen in this draft, and really the Eagles could use any one of those 3 positions looking forward and ahead to the 2025 season. There's also a lot of talent that I think is going to fall down this draft. Some guys that I like going through the draft process, but I've seen them kind of go all over the place in this first round. One that jumps out to me on the table is obviously the natural needed edge, and that is Tennessee edge rusher James Pierce Jr. Very productive in college and playing in the SEC. He's going up against first round, second round NFL star caliber talent, and he was producing. I mean, we saw the senior year and we saw what he was able to contribute to Tennessee's defense. That being said, now he's starting to slide around draft boards, up and down draft boards, because there's rumors about his coachability and, was that production as a result of other talent across the Tennessee defense? We'll see what happens come draft time. Guys, I like Malachi Starks. I love the fit Malachi Starks in this defense. I think if you want to, when we get to the player comparison draft, player comparison segment, I should say, there's a former Eagles safety that I'll compare him to that I think would just fit perfectly in this Eagles defense. If he's there, Ken at 32. I really like the idea of the Eagles picking an offensive lineman as well. There's Josh Connerly out of Oregon, good offensive tackle right there. Gray Zabel is a kind of a swing guard tackle type that, of course, you can only imagine what Jeff Stoutland can do with a guy out of North Dakota State, offensive lineman out of North Dakota State. And other guys that are going to move up and down the board in this draft. There's also some guys around there that I think the Eagles possibly could take. I'm not crazy about them, but there's just a ton of talent in this draft, Dalton, and I am so excited for Thursday, man. You have no idea about how much I'm anticipating pick number 32. I'm anticipating every pick because I've kind of scenarioed out everything for the Eagles throughout this entire draft.
Didn't even know I was muted there. Once again, sorry. I'm just fucking the shit out of it on technology tonight. Sorry about that, guys. Really changed myself over here. Horrible performance by me. But anyway, yeah, I think that they're going to move up. I have a weird feeling that Philadelphia is going to try to go up and get some guy that they feel is in the top 15 for value. Howie Roseman is always about the steal. And if he can go out and say, hey, this guy's a top 15 caliber player, and I got him at 32, or I moved up to 22 and got him, great. I could see it. Tyler Warren's a name to throw out there. We could potentially see the Eagles moving on for Dallas Goedert. We're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. Another name I could see the Eagles throwing out there, Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia. If they have a chance at even a sniff at him, they're going to be jumping up and down. Because the way that that guy played, I heard that his combine was insane. I heard there wasn't a thing that he refused to do. He just had a great attitude. He was upbeat, and he aced every single test. So if they have a chance at Malachi Starks, I think they would be stupid to not go get him. It's been a little bit since we've seen the Eagles draft in safety as well. And then another guy I wouldn't be shocked if they move up for is Nick Emanuwari out of South Carolina, or Mike Green, the edge out of Marshall. Mike Green is a really, really good player, and we know how he's fascinated by those edge rushers.
Oh, yeah, and I think I turned you on to Nick Emanuwari, freak athlete at safety. He was one of the first guys I kind of jumped out and said, hey, Dalton, you want to definitely keep an eye on this guy because he could be there at 32. Though, again, my thing with when you go through the draft process, there's going to be athletes all over the place, and there's going to be pro days that will jump out on the page from you. Not that I'm going to downplay Nick Emanuwari. I'm just saying if he's there, you take him. But if he's there and Malachi Starks is there, you take Malachi Starks. But yeah, Tyler Warren could be an interesting fit. 24-year-old tight end out of Penn State. He's kind of the ultimate gadget player. He played running back. He played wide receiver. They were able to line him up as a true outside wide receiver, as a slot receiver. He was all over this Penn State offense. They used him as running back, fullback, and quarterback, even center. I mean, he was doing everything for the Penn State Nittany Lions. I could see him sliding because obviously we're talking about a 24-year-old tight end. But if he does fit in this Philly offense, that would make things very interesting for kind of the potential to get really creative with what the Eagles do on offense. Again, I would probably say this pick is either going to be a defensive lineman, an edge rusher, interior defensive lineman, or an offensive tackle. I just think those are the two biggest positions for the Eagles, but there's going to be plenty of talent that can work its way down the draft boards early on in the process. One guy that I said, if he slips past 5 or 6, I would give up multiple first round picks and go and get. I was actually talking to Jack Dordan about this during the Eagles Autism Challenge. And if Abdul Carter finds a way, and it's probably not going to happen, but if he finds a way to slip past like 5th overall, I mean, I would give multiple first round picks to have that guy in Philadelphia. That dude is the best edge rusher in the draft. I think him in this defense paired up with Jalen Carter would be insane. Again, probably not going to happen, but man, that would be an interesting guy to fall in this draft. Again, if we're getting like crazy, whoa, this guy drops. Abdul Carter is a guy that I think, whoa, that guy drops. You go and get the best player, in my opinion, in the draft. But, again, Malachi Starks, James Pierce, Gray Zabel, you have the edge rushers out of Boston College. You have Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. You have plenty of offensive linemen. And even linebackers. We know, the Eagles have some injury history with Nakobe Dean. You could add a linebacker. I don't know if first round might be a little too rich, and Howie Roseman's never really been much to do that in the first round. But there's a ton of talent, Dalton. There's just so much talent in this draft on the defensive side. Again, it seems like every year the Eagles are just one step ahead of the rest of the NFL. And it proves because they can do anything at this position. And I think they're going to be fine. There's even a chance. I mean, I could just see it. The Eagles just saying, hey, if team came up, gave us a really great offer, we're just going to trade back and they move into day 2. I think you're muted again.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Once again, that's my fault. But yeah, with pick 64, it's going to be interesting to see how they choose to manage that. You got the top 10 edge rushers for me, and every single one of them you could argue could be a second round pick. Abdul Carter, Michael Williams, Mike Green, Donovan Ezequiario from Boston College. I know I just butchered that, but I butchered everything else tonight, so might as fucking well. James Pierce Jr., who apparently has some attitude issues, which we'll talk about later in the show. Nick Scorton, Shamir Stewart, Jalen Walker, Jack Sawyer from Ohio State, and Landon Jackson from Arkansas. All of those guys, I wouldn't be shocked if any of their names went within the first 2 rounds. So it's kind of like a good problem to have for the Eagles, but it's also an overwhelming problem to have, if you see what I'm saying. It's like, wow, this is a lot to weed through. It's not like in the past couple of years where it's clear, like Nolan Smith is our guy. We knew we wanted him. And yeah, he's taken a little bit of time to develop, but boy, has he developed. Or Jalix Hunt last year, we knew what a freak athlete he was. It's not like that. Like I said, it's a good problem to have. I know my guy, Donnie Picking Spreads on TikTok. He's like the draft guru. And if you guys don't follow him, give him a follow. Picking Spreads is his name. But this is his favorite time of the year because it's where you can really find good value for your team. And this year, like Benny already said, offensive line, edge. I mean, tackle is a position for the Eagles. In my butchered speech, I wanted to say, I do think that the Eagles, I would potentially see targeting a tackle, an edge, a safety, maybe defensive tackle with the first and second round picks, tight end or wide receiver potentially. If they go out and get a cornerback, linebacker, though, in those first 2 rounds, I would be shocked. So I want to see them invest in the trenches. The only tight ends that I would be okay with would probably be Tyler Warren or Colston from Michigan. Like, unless they're going out getting a guy that could be a generational tight end, I'd probably them rather hold on to Goddard, unless they're getting an insane trade. I mean, which actually gets us into our next topic. Could you see any departures, Benny?
Well, Goddard's the logical one. Carries a pretty sizable cap number the following year, and the Eagles could save a lot of money in 2025 by moving on from Dallas Goedert. They've added a ton of tight ends to that position. It kind of seems like there's going to be a shakeup at the tight end position. And if you've kind of followed the production line for Dallas Goedert over these last few years, it's actually been kind of dipping a little bit. He actually, last 2 years, he's only caught 2 touchdown passes. So if you're paying a guy, effectively what the Eagles are paying him per year, you're looking at around a $4 to $5 million per year tight end. I think they probably could move on. I think they might even be paying him more, but he carries a cap number in 2026, carries a cap number of 23, and that's on a void year. So they're going to need to restructure that if they want to keep him here longer. It just seems to me like it's just kind of the perfect situation for him to unfortunately be traded. But 2 touchdowns in 2024, 3 touchdowns in 2023, 3 touchdowns in 2022. He hasn't logged over 700 receiving yards in 2 years now. He is a great tight end, but we're also talking about a guy that's not always on the field. 10 games this year, 14 games in 2023, 12 games in 2022. And of course, going back to 2020, he only played 11 games. Last time he played a quote unquote full season was his rookie year. And now he's 30 years old. So 30-year tight ends, he's a great safety blanket. I think any team would be ecstatic to have a guy like Dallas Goedert. Now, the problem is probably not getting moved for a pick in this draft. It seems to me like a lot of teams are more interested in kind of trading a pick next year to get him this year. And I don't really think the Eagles are interested in doing that unless they get a really good deal. But then that, Davey does move, then that opens up the situation. As you said, Dalton, do you try to move up for a Tyler Warren? Do you want to see what the other tight ends in this draft? It's the tight end pickings in this draft are kind of too deep, in my opinion. You have Colston Loveland, you have Tyler Warren. Those are the top 2. I think they're kind of interchangeable. They do different things. Tyler Warren's kind of the ultimate Swiss Army knife. Colston Loveland's more of an inline tight end. Not really a great blocker, but a fantastic receiver. If you have, of course, there's some other tight ends deeper into the draft, as we see Daniel in the chat kind of mentioning. But to me, I like those two. The others don't really jump off to me as like, hey, you pick this guy and you can start him right now. I just don't think there's another tight end in this draft other than the two we've obviously talked about. But I do, really quickly, before we move any further, I do want to go back to another point that Daniel had. Kevin Winston Jr. at pick 64, possibly. To me, though, I think if you can get a Malachi Starks, I think Malachi Starks is very much a tier ahead of Kevin Winston Jr. But again, this draft is so deep with defense, you cannot go wrong. And I think as the draft goes on, I do see defensive back being a priority for the Eagles if they don't take Malachi Starks in the first round, a guy we'll talk about later in this one. But yeah, departures to me, the main one is Dallas Goedert. And I don't really see any other players kind of on the board for the Eagles that they possibly will trade unless they get a great deal for someone like a Bryce Huff.
Yeah, that's a great point. If they can find a way to get rid of Huff, they're going to do it, and they're going to jump on it. Another name that I wouldn't be shocked if they somehow found a way to get rid of, Jordan Davis. I know that may sound like a shock now, but with how deep this draft is with defensive tackle, and if they could get a little bit younger, and I know Jordan Davis has been a little bit underwhelming. They also already have Jalen Carter. I know that Milton Williams just left, so they are not necessarily deep, but they do also have a Jomu, who I'm pretty happy with. So I think tight end wise, though, Goddard is probably the most likely candidate. And I like how you put it, Benny. I would only be willing to give up Goddard for one of those two guys in Warren or Loveland. Mason Taylor's great. I mean, you got the guy from Miami too, Ferguson from Oregon, and then Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, Helm as well. But all those guys that I just named besides the top two are probably mid to fourth round picks. No disrespect to them, and they're going to be great players.
Sure.
But they aren't, necessarily the player that Dallas Goedert is. So I do like the idea of Cap, though. I'm always for offloading Cap, and that's kind of where this becomes interesting. I do think we will see departure draft night. I wonder the severity of it, like how significant of a player it will be. But I do think you're right. I feel like we'll see a departure draft night.
It's interesting you brought up Jordan Davis. Going into the show today, we were texting back and forth, and when I was doing when I was at the gym in the afternoon, I was just thinking like, okay, obviously Dallas Goedert's the one, but is there another one that could be a surprise? Let's just kind of get crazy with it. Let's just say Howie just decides, hey, enough is enough. I want to get rid of this guy. Jordan Davis was a guy that did come to me, and I don't really see much of a scenario where that happens in a normal instance, but again, it could, just because you're talking about a defensive tackle that is coming up on, needing a contract extension. And we already talked about, at nauseum on the podcast about needing to offer an extension to Jalen Carter down the road. And you need to clear out cap for that. That's kind of why I think Dallas Goedert's the player. If a player does get moved, it's likely to be Dallas Goedert, but Jordan Davis is another interesting name to kind of throw out there. And I will say Howie doesn't jump out to me as the type of GM that likes to trade out of something to replace it. He would like to trade out of something to add depth elsewhere when he's already he would like to trade a tight end when he already has a tight end on the roster that can just replace it, instead of having to trade a guy to just put another guy there. That's not really building depth. He would use Dallas Goedert to kind of get a defensive tackle and then trade Jordan Davis to get something else, and then trade this to get that when you have established depth there, which the Eagles do at a lot of positions, but not really at tight end. I mean, Calcaterra, would you want to see a full season of Grant Calcaterra? I like him, but I don't know if I would want to see 17 games of Grant Calcaterra.
That totally is a fair thing to say, man. I mean, I think Calcaterra is a great tight end too. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think we're ready to see the Calcaterra tight end one era yet. I agree with you on that, Penny. Now, we talked about this a couple minutes ago. We'll just go ahead and do it now before we talk about trading up for anyone. But I'll let you go ahead and take it first. Are there any blockbusters that you could see happening draft night? Shock the world.
From the Eagles, no. But I do think there are potentials for certain teams to move up. And if we want to talk about other teams really quick, one team that jumps out to me as just you have to start doing something here. You have to start taking swings. Your team has, while you've made the playoffs, you haven't got any wins since 2016. And if you want to go to the 302 Birds draft guide, you can read my write-up about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're flirting with Aaron Rodgers, which is equivalent to, you're at the 8th grade dance and there's the one, girl or guy that's like the bad boy of the group, might have been kept back a few years in the dance, but they're at the dance and you're like, hey, I want to try it. I want to go for them. But, it's just so many things that are just wrong with Aaron Rodgers. And while he's a great quarterback, he doesn't have many years left. And you have to start thinking about the future long-term. To me, the Pittsburgh Steelers are a type of team that I could see trading up for Shedeur Sanders. It just makes too much sense. It's also the dumbest thing the Pittsburgh Steelers could do. But at some point, you have to start taking swings and, driving you somewhere up and down the draft. And I think Pittsburgh's the type of team to make a blockbuster type deal and make a move up for a quarterback and reach on a quarterback. Because again, there's only 3 quarterbacks in this draft that have first round grades. To me, 1 or 2. And one of those iffy 2s would be Shedeur Sanders. I think, he's the only other quarterback I can see going in the first round. And Pittsburgh's kind of a good situation for him. They have 2 pretty solid receivers and a team. You'd be in a situation where you'd be able to sit for a year while Aaron Rodgers is there. I think that's the only blockbuster type trade I see. But, if there's another situation where another player could be traded, maybe, but I wouldn't vote for this draft. To me, this ain't the draft to go and do that. It just isn't.
I will play devil's advocate for one guy.
Sure.
And I played devil's advocate all off season long. Benny already knows where I'm going. And if you guys haven't listened to the podcast at all, you already know where I'm going. I, for God's sake, had to put the guy in an Eagles jersey on the cover. And shout out to Benny, like he said, giving a shout out to the draft catalog. If you guys didn't know, you can download this at home. It's a free PDF. It's on our story right now. Print it out. All it needs is you need 23 sheets of paper, 3 staples, and a whole lot of love because it's going to make you laugh your ass off reading some of these. I mean, some of them are really, really good. Some of them are really, really bad. Don't worry. All Bennies are good. Me and everybody else, and Joey's are good. Everybody else, though, me, Jack, and Josh, you may not want to read them. But you can download if you guys want, but you guys can see already where I'm going at with this. Abdul Carter, draft night. We could be sitting there, and if he falls out of the top 3 picks, that's when it's game on. Howard, pick up the phone. Howard, get the old photos of people.
Yep.
I think someone said it in the past. It was you, Benny, of people doing bad things. Like, whatever you got to do to get that guy in the building. Because my main reasoning is, just thinking about this, this is a simple equation for me. And when I propose it this way, it'll probably be a simple reasoning for you guys too. A team in a Super Bowl window with Saquon Barkley paid for the next 3 years, I believe it is, or 2 years at minimum, and Abdul Carter paid for the next 4 years. That is a scary sight. I don't care who's the quarterback. I don't care who's the wide receiver. I don't care who's the safety and cornerback. If you tell me that I have those 2 pieces at minimum, I'm set. And then they got everything else around it. So if they can somehow find a way to pull that off, like Patriots, Jaguars, or Raiders, that would be insane. Honestly, like Benny said, though, that's really, really unlikely, guys. Everything that you're hearing about with that, it's unlikely as hell. I think the honest edge rusher that we could see the Eagles get is the guy from Boston College. Or honestly, I would not be upset with if they can find a way to trade up for Mike Green. He's in some people's draft the 2nd overall edge rusher. I think that's a little bit high. I have him at like 4 or 5 probably. But regardless, the dude from Marshall can play. And he already looks good in green. So we know that he'll look really good in Kelly Green. But I'm just saying, if they can find a way to get Mike Green, I feel like he's a player that would play for this city. That would be a valid trade up. Like maybe trade with Benny's favorite, the Steelers over there at pick 21, or maybe, the Chargers. Because I think the Steelers are going to actually look maybe in the direction of, if they don't trade up, of maybe trading back. Like the Steelers should do something. You're right. They need to move one way or another. Sitting stagnant at that pick, stupid. So they could actually trade back to go get Amari and Hampton, I think, who would be a good pick for them.
Yeah.
So maybe the Eagles trade up with him. That could work out, but we'll see. I think it's probably not going to happen. You're right, because it's such a slim mark. Like those top 3 players of this draft are so good, and then the fall off is so big.
Yeah, I say this. I think the thing the kind of thought you want to have when we're having this conversation about trading up for Abdul Carter is don't think about anything else. Like just don't throw rational thought out. How many first round picks would you give up for a generational pass rusher? I would give up 2. I'll be honest with you, I'd give up 2. Who cares? Like, 2 first round picks, you're picking what, 25th and back for back-to-back years. Who gives a shit? You just go and take the best edge rusher ever. I don't care. Yeah. But I think you just go take your swing right now. Abdul Carter and Jalen Carter on the same line would be bonkers. That would be bonkers to me. And Daniel said it earlier. I have Abdul Carter going to the Cleveland Browns. I think, yeah, I love that. That's good. Mr. Carter 1 and 2. I love it.
Make it a t-shirt.
Make it a t-shirt. Lil Wayne, the Carter 2. But to me, like, you just take your swing and you just do it and fuck the future. Who cares? You just, you're winning Super Bowls now. But that's the type of swing you take. To me, if I'm the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, you take Abdul Carter. You don't take the recent mocks have come out about Cleveland taking Travis Hunter. I'm going to rant for a second. That is the dumbest. The history of the Cleveland Browns drafting has been not great. They're one of the worst teams when it comes to the first round since the turn of the century. Why would you think you can change your fortunes with the first two-way player in recent NFL history? There's never been a player that's going to play regularly on offense and defense since Travis Hunter's going to come in, or Travis Hunter's going to enter the league. Why would Cleveland think they can make that work? I have no idea why Cleveland thinks they can make that work. It's not going to work, which means then if you fail, now you're failing on both the offense and defensive side. Let him slide to a team like New England Patriots, who have had a history of making that work with guys like Troy Brown, Mike Vrabel. They have been able to utilize guys on both sides of the ball pretty regularly and get good production out of it. Just have them go there. If it fails for them, it fails for them. Don't be the team. Like if you're picking in the top 5 and you take a guy that's gonna play both sides of the football and it doesn't work out, that's an even bigger egg on your face than if you fuck up at quarterback. If you fuck up at quarterback, okay, sure. You can always buy a quarterback, trade for a quarterback. There's always a veteran quarterback that's upset. You can always get Aaron Rodgers to come out of retirement and stop doing mushrooms for a year. Like you can always get a quarterback. Even though it's really rare that you get a great quarterback, you can always find a quarterback that's capable of being a starter. If you fuck up in 2 positions at once, like you're done. Like you're cooked for a year or 2. So to me, like Abdul Carter is the second best player, second overall. Yeah, you just don't do this, Cleveland. But if they do, hey, I would pick up the phone and say, New York, we'll take it. What would it take? Or New England, what would it take? And try to go and get yourself Abdul Carter. If again, that's throw logic out and just take your swings. That's what I would do.
I love it. I think you're right. I mean, Cleveland is such, and I'm going to get to Broad Street Sports here in 1 second. So give me 1 sec, Broad. I got you. But you're right. Cleveland just historically is such a laughable, abysmal, idiotic franchise that I think that they're honestly going to whiff on Abdul Carter and go ahead and take somebody, you're right, like Travis Hunter. And I was listening to WIP today, and they had a really good point. And they said, okay, honestly, when he gets to the NFL, realistically, a team's going to say, look, pick a lane, man. We're not going to have you out there. Number one, injury is my main thought. That's my own thought is injury is my biggest fear. But number 2, the other thing is just like, we want you to go all in on one position, learn it, and just go for it. Learning 2 positions in the NFL at once at a high level like that, it's got to be really, really difficult. So I think if they said, hey, pick a lane, he wants to be a receiver. Like when you ask him what he is, he says, I'm a wide receiver / cornerback. He doesn't say I'm a cornerback / wide receiver. So that's pretty interesting. I think, like Benny said, you got to pick a lane and then kind of come in packages too. Like you could say, okay, he's going to be a starting wide out. The problem is with Cleveland, it's a double-edged sword for them. And hear me out on this. In one lane, the good news for Cleveland is that he plays two sides of the ball. So if he sucks on one side, you can just flip him to the other and see if it works out. Like that's kind of, looking at the glass like it's half full, like a good old Cleveland fan. The other side is, you're right. Like Abdul Carter is such a sure pick that if you whiff on him, you're going to be laughed at for years to come. You're going to ruin a Heisman's, career in the NFL, or at least stunt his growth, which I think is unfair. Look, it's what's happened to Myles Garrett. It's almost like he's been locked in a cage. So I do find it pretty interesting. But we got some guests that I'm going to bring on really quick and that we can actually add into the conversation. We're going to be talking about also, we are talking about the names of trading up. So either Jurassic or Unjurassic. Joey and Broad Street Sports. How you doing, Ryan?
What's up, man? I feel like I haven't talked to you in a long time. I haven't talked to your people in a long time. It's been a while, but it's good to see you, and I'm happy to be here.
Hey, man, it's great to see you too. Joey Havens, thank you for being here as well. Looking sharp as ever in that golf shirt, bro. I appreciate you. But hey, Broad, we'll let our guests take it first, man. Who's at the top of your wish list? Who would you like to see the Eagles trade up for?
I don't really see them trading up. I think a lot of people believe that they're going to sit there and trade A.J. Brown to New England for the 4th pick to get Abdul Carter. I don't see any of that. I think Howie is going to take his pick with 32nd and try and build that way. I think he likes the team that he has right now. I don't think he wants to move pieces around. I think he likes the comfortability with AJ in the offense. So I really don't see him trading up with a bunch of picks, but I do believe that they're going to sit there. They're going to take the 32nd pick and they're going to build that way. And because if you sit there, there is some players that you can get at that 32nd pick that can be difference makers. I truly believe that. You don't have to go out and go and spend or go out and trade picks or whatever else to go and get who you need. I do believe that guys will fall to them. So I really just don't see them trading up for guys when it's not totally necessary. Like if you have a real chance at Abdul Carter, sure, whatever. Like if draft night, New England's we'll do it right now. You get them. Fine. I could see that. But right now, I really don't see that at all. I think they're going to take their chance with the 32nd pick and just go with a defensive back, defensive lineman. I think that's where I see that going.
How about you, Joey? Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you. Honestly, I don't think kind of what he said. I don't think they're trading up. I think they'll, if anything, stay, if not move back. I know the last time they had the 32nd pick, they traded it away and it became Lamar Jackson. So I don't know if Howie wants to trade it this time. Maybe he'll take his pick. But honestly, I think somebody that might fall to us that I feel like is kind of going under the radar is Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. He's at edge, and that's obviously a big position we need to fill. And somebody like that kind of going under the radar because you got bigger names like obviously Abdul Carter. You've got other defensive tackles that are like Mykal Williams and stuff that are going to be projected to go before somebody like Sawyer who might fall. And he's just a guy that seems like he would fit really well in this Vic Fangio defense.
When I think about this, right, and like I said, 32nd pick, I really do believe that we're going to take it. And I believe, when you look at this defense, we've been gutted. Defensive line has been gutted. Defensive backs have been gutted. So now it's time, because obviously you've heard Vic Fangio talk. You've heard Howie talk. They want youth. They want young guys in there. They want young guys with speed. And right now, when you're gutted. So now you're going to try and bring youth in. I really see I've been listening to WIP and everybody. I'm liking this James Pierce Jr. guy. I really do. And now, because we needed an edge rusher, I really do. And, because I just seen your face, thought. So when I think about James Pierce Jr., obviously he has a sexual assault charges, whatever the case is. And Howie Roseman has Like, he's shown that he never wants to take anybody that has criminal history, especially of sexual assault or whatever the case is. But right now, I think that he's going to take a gamble here because he had 17 and a half sacks. He like some people say that he is truthfully the next Jalen Carter. He's huge. He's a big guy. He's fast. And you know what? When your line's gutted, so you're already going to bring youth in. I think that he's a guy that's definitely going to fly under the radar because of sexual assault charges and because teams don't want that. They think teams like that's going to hurt the locker room. So I really believe if you want to talk about a defensive lineman, baby, fall into us. I think you see James Pierce Jr., and I would totally be okay with that. Young, he's next Jalen Carter 2.0. I like that. I really do.
Benny, Joey?
Dude.
There's the sexual. Yeah. So I want to talk about James Pierce Jr. because he's a guy very productive at Tennessee. Obviously, when the SEC are going up against other talented offensive linemen that are going to be picked on day one and day two. Absolutely, he's going to go have taken snaps against guys that are going to go on day one and day two. There's sexual assault allegations. There's also the questions of just coachability. Could that change if he becomes a Philadelphia Eagle? Sure. But at the same time, you when you take a player, you're analyzing everything that you've seen and heard of and when you talk to him and everything you kind of take your notes on. To me, I see two scenarios. I see either you go with one of the top three guys on your sheet, which I think for Howie would be a guy like Malachi Starks, Michael Williams out of Georgia, who I don't know if you guys have seen his arms. They look like something out of he looks like a demigorgon. They're huge. They're biggest arms I've ever seen on a defensive lineman. Or another edge rusher like Mike Green or Shamar Stewart if they fall to you. The other guy I think that could be there day two out of Ole Miss is Princely Immunimanian. I love him. I think he fits a lot of what the Eagles want to do. And plus, they added Josh Uche at defensive end. You already have Nolan Smith. You already have a few other edge rushers that you can put on the field. And you saw Jay Links Hunt during the Super Bowl. He's the other guy you can keep in the rotation. To me, I think maybe day two is another serious spot where you see the Eagles looking at edge rusher. Maybe they look at defensive back first because you're going to have to find a second corner to replace, Darius Slay. You're going to also want to find a safety to also replace, the CJGJ that you just traded away. You're going to have to find some defensive backs here to fill in. And while Kaylee Ringo's great, we haven't really seen anything on the field. I think Cooper DeJean is more of a slot corner. And then, Sidney Brown hasn't played a full season just yet. To me, if Malachi Starks is there, he's the guy I think that would be a perfect fit for the Philadelphia Eagles.
I like that too. Now another guy, because he was on my list. I have a list of guys right here that I would like. So I touched on James Pierce. Now here's a guy that I don't know if he's on your guys' radar, and I don't even know if I'm saying his first name right because to me it's like Kobe. But Kobe Bryant, the cornerback from Kansas. Here's what I'll talk about this guy, okay? Because your defensive back's been gutted. You have no Darius Slay. You lost Isaiah Rodgers. You're lacking depth now. We haven't seen Kelly Ringo really see him, what he can fully be. So right now, when you look at Kobe Bryant, he's like a CJGJ because if I remember, he's the guy that locked down Travis Hunter, was talking all that shit to him. And, it's a great tackler, very athletic. And he's a guy, he brings in depth. He's fast. He's quick. He's a lockdown guy, and he brings that source of energy and confidence that you lost when you got rid of CJGJ, and now you bring him in. It's that's what you need. You pair him up with Quignon and DeJean, and then reblank and everybody. You have the depth now. You would have like the young guys. You would have like the I wouldn't say ego, but like this confidence and energy that you lost with CJ. Now you're going to bring it back to this Kobe Bryant guy. And I would really see, I think he could fall. I think he's a guy that you would see fall. I don't know about to his second round, but I could definitely see him at a 32nd pick.
Joey?
Yeah. I know obviously Malachi Starks is like the hot, like everybody wants him, but he's probably the best safety in the class, in my opinion. So I've looked at a couple others. I've got Xavier Watts and Nick Emanwori. Watts coming out of Notre Dame and then Emanwori out of South Carolina. I think either one of those as well could just be kind of what like Broad was just saying, just that energy piece that the defense needs back, because obviously losing a safety as it like CJGJ was such a big hit. We saw how in 2023 the defense didn't have the same energy, so they really have to nail kind of that's solid rock in the secondary that's going to really keep them going and keep them motivated and just keep them aggressive and no matter what, like, fighting. But I don't think they really have that right yet. I think like Cooper DeJean, like I'll say with his hit last year on Derrick Henry, that obviously I think showed he can step up for his team. But I think they just need one other guy that's like that, like a hard hitter, just somebody that can punish you over the middle, that kind of scares you a little bit. And I think somebody like Xavier Watts or even Eamon Worry, even if Malachi Starks were to fall, like one of those three safeties is going, really all three of them, no matter what, I think all three of them can be really elite safeties in this league. And the Eagles would be lucky to get any one of them.
You know, when I think about Malachi Starks, right? He's fast and he's a great ball tracker, but he lacks. From what I've seen out of him, because I watched some film on him and I watch him play, whatever. He has a hard time with field vision downfield with the ball, and he has a hard time like blitzing, I guess, and attacking the gaps. But that's something with a Vic Fangio scheme, Vic Fangio, just summer practices that you can work on. You can't teach speed and you can't teach great ball tracking. You really can't, but you can teach how to get in them gaps, how to blitz, and how to try and track the ball down the field at least a little bit better. So when I think about Malachi Starks, he's great safety, fast. There is some downfalls with him, but it's nothing that Vic Fangio and his guys can't fix. They can teach a lot of these things, and I would be totally okay with him. You lose CJGJ, bring a safety in, that would be great.
It's funny you talk about some of the things that Malachi Starks does, and watching tape on him, I kind of got, and we can hold it. I mean, if you want me to hold this until player comps, Dalton, I can, but he reminds me so much of Malcolm Jenkins in the sense that he's a safety. He's also a bit of a slot corner. He played a lot of that in college and he excelled. And I think if you get a guy like Malachi Starks, that would give you the ability, if you want, to kind of platoon Cooper DeJean at the outside corner spot. If it doesn't work, move him back and drop Starks back to safety and see what you got in Kaylee Ringo or one of the other corners you picked up. But I think definitely defensive back is going to be something the Eagles will take on day 1 or day 2. I don't think you let that go until day 3. They need to add another piece. You need to add a piece that you can put on the field week 1, just because why not? I mean, you need to stack up on startable defensive players that are still in the rookie contract, because you're going to be handing a massive deal. If Milton Williams just got that contract, what do you think Jalen Carter's going to get? So that's what the Eagles have to plan long-term for. And I think that's why a guy like Malachi Starks kind of gives you the flexibility of being able to get a corner, get a safety, get a guy you can kind of bounce around the defense and fill a lot of holes. And then long-term, be able to afford, a star-studded defense that can keep you in contention for quite a while.
Yeah. They're going to have a lot of tough decisions to make that night. And like you kind of alluded to, Benny, we'll get into some player comps towards the end of the show here. But Malachi Starks, man, you a mind reader? It's funny because I had Jenkins on there too. And the main word that I had capitalized was just a leader. All the film that I saw, he takes that defense and he's like, okay, these are my guys. It's my job to lead them. And I'm not afraid to do it. And especially in this era of football and of sports, you see that hesitation sometimes from certain athletes, or that hesitation to be vocal. I know a lot of Eagles fans were with Jalen Hurts being a little bit quieter, they didn't like that at first. I feel like with Starks, there's no hesitation in that. We all know that he had a great combine and this and that, but all the film that you watch, his teammates respect him and he's a field general out there on that defense. So I think the Malcolm Jenkins comparison's exceptional. Jesse Bates is another name I had out there. Adrian Amos as well. The safety that I think he's a Jet now. I know he was definitely a longtime Packers safety, but he was just an exceptional player. That very balanced characteristic, could play in the box, could play zone, could play man. did what you needed him to as safety, but was just like a football player, like Cooper DeJean. Like, didn't complain. Coach, where do you need me to go? And I'm going to play at a high level wherever you need me. So that's my first comparison. And then my second one was Nick Amanawari. I had comparing to Derwin James Jr. I just feel like with his athleticism, his size, his speed, his versatility, he's capable of playing deep. He's capable of playing in the box, like I just said. I feel like he reminds me a lot of a young Derwin James when he came out of the league, if that can kind of take off to where we need it to be, where you're going to see some fumbles from him his rookie year. You're going to see some pick sixes. You're going to just see an exciting player in the secondary that Philadelphia loves. And honestly, I don't want to say that Amanwari is going to be better than Starks, but I feel like he's going to be in a really good system if he comes here is how I'll wrap it up and put it on that one. But we'll go ahead and take it to Benny, then Joey, then Broad. But Benny, who are some of your comparisons?
Yeah, so Malcolm Jenkins, I think, is just such a good comparison for what Malachi Starks does. To Broad Street's credit, he needs to work on his tackling. I do think that's an element, but that's also something that I see potential there for him correcting pretty quickly. So Malachi Starks, Malcolm Jenkins, I just think that's such a perfect thing. Plus, I think for the Eagles, another Georgia Bulldog, why not add another one onto your defense? A lot of these guys in this draft, though, it's really tough for me to comp them players just because a lot of them are freaks, like Shamar Moore. He's just a freak of an athlete, defensive end. Michael Williams out of Georgia, I've never seen arms that long. The only time I've ever seen arms that long were on an Alien. So in a movie, so there's some of these guys you just can't really comp them to certain players. But I will say, like, Michael Williams, watching him come off the edge, he is something special. If he's there, I mean, could you imagine him, Carter, and Nolan Smith all on the same defense? That would be absolutely bananas. But looking at the top end of this draft, I know these are guys that probably not going to follow the Philadelphia Eagles, but also kind of set up for the rest of this draft. Ashton Genty, I don't know how much film everyone's seen here of him. He got comped early on to LaDainian Tomlinson. I don't see that at all. I see Marshawn Lynch. I really do. He's a violent runner, but he's also a very level runner, able to make some moves. Not necessarily the fastest guy in the world, but just a dude that's really difficult to tackle because you both have to get your hands around him, and then of course you have to bring him down. Very good center of gravity. And then in terms of the quarterbacks in this draft, we talk about how terrible they are, and they are. I mean, they're not great. Dan Ward gives me like Jordan Love meets like Russell Wilson now vibes. And then Shadur Sanders, he gives me like Baker Mayfield. I look at Shadur and I'm like, I'm good on that. But for a team like Pittsburgh, why not? I mean, you might as well take that over whatever you're going to get out of Aaron Rodgers, whatever's left with him. And then the other quarterback that I have mocked as a first-round grade is Jackson Dart. I think he's like Bo Nix if he didn't transfer out of Auburn. I just think he's okay and maybe starts for you a few times, but I think Jackson Dart's going to be that quarterback in like 7 years that you see holding a clipboard in Washington going, oh yeah, that guy was a first-round pick. Yeah, how about that?
He ended up being a really good coach or a really good like motivator or something. I hear you. QB's coach.
As far as like comparisons, I know earlier you guys were saying James Pierce Jr. I actually had the same thing written down that Broad was saying. Like I compared him really well to like Jalen Carter, the way he plays and the way like he was just able to demand so much attention and everything like that. And then another one I had, I don't know if he's going to fall to us. I don't know kind of where he's projected. I feel like I've seen him come to projected to us a couple times, but Walter Nolan, I feel like that's kind of how he could use that to kind of right the Jordan Davis ship here. I know like he's done a little bit better last year, but like Jordan Davis hasn't really done much for being the first round pick that he was. And I think Walter Nolan has the size and the ability just to be exactly what we thought Jordan Davis was going to be, is that big run stuffer that can be in there first, second, and if needed, third downs and at the goal line, everything like that. But I think he's more athletic. I think he's somebody that's going to take it a little more serious and be able to be there the whole season instead of like half the season and more consistent. But as far as like other comps, I really don't have much. I don't know. Many of the like you guys were saying, the quarterbacks they stink. Like I think honestly, I think Jackson Dart like is going to be the best of all of them. And honestly, I think he's going to Pittsburgh, and I think he's going to get set up nice. If he goes in the first round, I think that's where he's going, and I think he'll get set up nice there. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. This draft is just not. It's not like talent wise. You got obviously like Abdul Carter, and your first couple guys like Travis Hunter. That'll be interesting for me to see. I don't know what he's going to do. Yeah, whether he stays at. Do you really think he's going to do both? Because I don't think he'll do both at all. I really don't think they'll let him do it. I think so say he goes to the Browns, right? I look at it like this. So you're telling me you're going to cover DK Metcalf, right, over the middle, and he hits you with like a stiff arm. He looks like a stick. Like he's gonna throw you down. And then if you're playing wide receiver, you're gonna come across the middle, and like Patrick Queen's gonna make you look like a little peewee player. Like that's my take on it. I don't know. I feel like yeah.
It's funny. Me and Dalton we're talking about this before we jump. I'll let you go in a second, Broad. I just want to say this. I think like why does Cleveland think with their draft history that's going to work with Travis Hunter? Like, why do they think it's going to work? Like, oh, it didn't work with any other guys you drafted the past decade, but we can make the one two-way star, the first ever two-way star in NFL history. We can make it work with him. It's not going. Here's my thing with Cleveland. Like, I understand getting Travis Hunter gives you a decent, solid wide receiver. To me, I think Travis Hunter is a better corner than he is a wide receiver, but he draws comps as a wide receiver. I mean, I've seen some experts say Justin Jefferson. I don't see it. But to me, I think he's a better corner than he is wide receiver. That being said, he's going to want to play wide receiver more just because that's going to be the position that's going to get him paid more. And obviously, his college coach knows all too well about getting paid, so Deion Sanders. But to me, like, that would be the funniest pick for Cleveland. And I have my brother-in-law is a Cleveland Browns fan, and I don't want to break his heart too much here, but that would be the most Cleveland Browns pick. It would be the most Cleveland Browns thing for him to fail. To me, just don't do this. If you're picking the top three, don't be the team that picks Travis Hunter instead of Abdul Carter. Then goes on to watch Abdul Carter have like 15 sack seasons for 3 straight years. And meanwhile, you're sitting there with Travis Hunter, who got hurt week 3 because he's 185 pounds and he can't play both sides of the football in the NFL. Like, don't do this because then you're not only are you fucked on one side of the football, you are fucked on the other side of the football. Like, don't do this. Just take Abdul Carter, line him up by Myles Garrett, and just have a really great defense and no offense because Joe Flacco's 87 years old and Kenny Pickett can't throw the football. Like, just do that. Just win games 13-10.
All right, so my player comparison. Now, I touched on this earlier. The Kobe Bryant guy, I compare him to a CJ because he could play your safety, he could play corner. But when I really think about him as I see him potentially being a leader of a defense, like filling in the CJ's shoes with swagger, with confidence, because when you saw early on in the year, the defense they didn't have an identity. But as the year went on, and definitely towards the end of the season and throughout the playoffs, you saw that the confidence and the mindset of CJ Gardner-Johnson wore off on the rest of the defense, and they played the same exact way. They played with that ego. They played with that confidence. They were out there and they didn't give an F who was on the other side of the field. They didn't care. So when I think about it, Kobe Bryant is a guy that can do that. When I watched him go off against Travis Hunter, when I seen him talk his shit against Travis Hunter, that's a guy that a defense needs, especially a Philadelphia defense, which is smash mouth. We want to beat the shit out of you. We don't care who you are. That's a guy that you bring in. And another guy that I want to talk about, which I did not bring up earlier, but is Jahad Campbell, the linebacker. I'd compare him to a Bobby Wagner, a big guy, strong, there. So, I mean, that's my player comparisons. I don't think that they're going to go and get this Jahad Campbell guy. That's not what I'm trying to say. Just going to compare him to a Bobby Wagner. If any other team he's going to get drafted, but whoever gets him. But I really do think that I see the Eagles going out and getting a Kobe Bryant guy over Malachi Starks, in my opinion. But I just read a comment here from Daniel Sander. I never said the Eagles were going to get Jihad. I never said that. But all I'm saying is I compare him to a Bobby Wagner. I'm not saying they're going to get him. He's not going to fall. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just comparing him. But I do believe out of this list, I really do like Eagles to maybe get James Pierce Jr. and Kobe Bryant. But Malachi Starks is kind of like he may get picked up earlier than that because he's very good.
There's a lot of great guys in this draft once you get to the second and third round. There's that line, and it's funny, I was going to bring it up during the safety one. Literally, Joey brought it up. Those three safeties, same thing. Once you get past them, that's where the line really drops. That's how I feel about the second and third round picks. There's a couple of guys in the first round. Then there's that line where it's like, okay, there's a really good cluster of players. And then you get down towards the end where it's like, okay, it's the normal NFL draft, nothing crazy here. But for the Eagles, I think one more interesting comparison to make. Joey brought him up earlier, Walter Nolan. I think I saw online a lot of people were comparing him to Fletcher Cox, even Steelers fans, with the way that he plays, the way that he approaches the game coming out of college. And I think that could be kind of, you guys were mentioning a way to make right with Jordan Davis. Maybe get one guy out, trade up, and go get a really good defensive tackle. Because when you guys look at this is arguably the most deep defensive tackle draft we have seen in years. I mean, you got Mason Graham, Derek Harmon, Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan. Those four guys are all arguably first-round picks. And then you got Tyleik Williams, Darius Alexander, and TJ Sanders, who are all second-round picks. So you have exceptional talent in this draft at defensive tackle. I feel like if the Eagles want to make that move, this is the draft to do it with one of those first 2 picks. Like, go for it with your first round or your second round. Really invest in it. Get rid of Jordan Davis. Ship him off. He got a ring. You know what he is. Like, I love Jordan Davis. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great guy. But as a football player, I just don't see the ceiling being much higher than it is right now. I mean, you guys all watch the same team that I do. Do you guys agree, disagree?
Yeah, I agree.
I think to a degree, what we've seen out of Jordan Davis has I think there's more there. I think he can take an. Some guys are just late bloomers, and I think to me Jordan Davis is a late bloomer. I still am pretty confident in what you can get production wise out of him. But going back to some of those defensive tackles really briefly, and then I'll get back to Jordan Davis. Love Walter Nolan. I love Kenneth Grant, one of the most violent football players ever. And Mason Graham to me is a fantastic defensive value. You will not get to where the Eagles are anywhere near picking them, but Walter Nolan, one note on him is I feel like he would be picked way higher if he had a more exciting name. Like Walter Nolan, just a very boring name. But if his name was like, I don't know, if his name was Shadur Sanders, I think he would be a top 5 pick without a doubt. But to kind of bring it back to everything, if named Kobe Bryant, I think he would be a top 10 pick with Shamar Stewart. He'd be a top 10 pick. But to me, Jordan Davis, I think the Eagles keep him around because of the importance of having him keep steady Jalen Carter. I think that's kind of his role. I think he is a second defensive tackle, maybe even a third defensive tackle, but I don't think he's a guy you pay to be a top defensive tackle on your team. And unfortunately, for a while, he was the number 1 defensive tackle for the Eagles, and we just didn't get that production out of him. But he's a good dude, run stuffer. You need a guy that's big to take multiple offensive linemen, and he's been able to do that and free up Jalen Carter for a lot of rushes.
You know what? Could Jordan Davis be a late bloomer? Sure. Do I think he's a late bloomer? Not really. You want to know why? Because he comes into camp every year 25 pounds overweight. Because every year he can't stay healthy. Because every game he doesn't get the amount of snaps that he should be out there getting. So should he be what we thought he was going to be when he drafted him? Absolutely. But right now, I don't see it. I don't think he's going to live up to the hype. Can't stay healthy, can't stay in shape. And those are the two biggest things in the NFL and in professional sports. And he can't do the two biggest things. And he can't, when he's on the field, he can't stay on the field for more than 2 plays. So I don't know. Could he be a late bloomer? Maybe. Do I think he is? Absolutely not.
I feel like with him too, the thing is, we've watched Nolan Smith. I think Nolan Smith got drafted the year after Jordan Davis, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure.
So we've watched.
He was
Nolan
the same
Smith.
year as Jalen Carter. Yeah.
Oh, he was. Yeah. So Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith were the year after Davis, right? Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, we've all watched. I feel like Nolan Smith, some people might say, was a late bloomer. So it's like, okay, when is enough enough? So I do get Broad's frustration with Jordan Davis, but also Benny brings up an interesting point. Like Howie Roseman is not an idiot. And how much of how, like, we know Jalen Carter and the kind of player he is, exceptional football player, great football player, but he's young. He's a young, naive young man. You know, he needs some people to help guide him. And honestly, you look at Jordan Davis, and if you look up like picture perfect off the field player, Jordan Davis will be there. Great player, well-spoken, upbeat, happy, you know, always, you know, representing the organization with pride, with a smile, making your team look good. And I do think that that's an interesting point, that keeping him in there, it's like, whoa. Like, this has already worked. Why would we go in and mess with this is an interesting thing. But at the same time, if there's any sort of doubt that Howie Roseman has in Jordan Davis, this is Howie's call, you really need to consider, okay, this is the draft that I can flip him and go out and get a legit defensive tackle, because this draft is like a Haley's Comet for fucking defensive tackles. It's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. If I was Howie personally, I wouldn't go into the draft looking to trade Jordan Davis, but I would also look at it like this. While, yeah, like he's got his Georgia boy, like they also do, like you said, they got Nolan Smith, and then they also have Nakobe Dean. And they all played together on the same defense. And I really do think that Jordan Davis, yeah, he's a good role model to him and everything like that. I think Nakobe Dean is, if not the same type of individual, upstanding, does everything. I feel like I see him all the time, even when he was injured. Like he was still doing stuff with the Eagles for the charities and stuff like that. And that's somebody that I feel like could also connect with Jalen Carter in a way that he'll keep him in check and be like, yo, man, like, you know, let's stay locked in during the game and everything like that. Like, so if somebody were to offer like, hey, you know, if you want to move up, give us Jordan Davis and the 32nd pick and we'll give you this. I mean, if I'm Howie, I'm taking it, because Jordan Davis, he's been good, but he hasn't, I don't believe he's been what he should be, what he could be. And I just don't think that here is where he's going to bloom into that. I really don't think that's where it is, because here he's not used as much as he probably should be, but that's also on him because he doesn't stay in shape. And it was what, in 23, halfway through the season, he like fell off a cliff because he couldn't stay in shape and got injured. It's like we've seen that, you know, with the Sixers and Joel Embiid, and I don't want to see that again. So just if you can get him out of here, get him out of here. But if not, hey, we'll keep him here.
Yeah, I agree.
Joel Embiid comparisons. Woof. Oh my God. I think I'll say this. I think if Jordan Davis gets traded, I think it happens next year. That's what I think. Because from based off of what Howie does historically, he's not going to trade to create a situation where he needs to replace a player. He's going to trade a player when he knows he has a guy on the roster that can replace him. So, for example, I think in this perfect scenario, let's say Walter Nolan is there at 32. Let's say Kenneth Grant is there at 32. I can see a scenario where Howie drafts one of those players. They sit behind Jordan Davis for 1 year, and then next year Jordan Davis is moved in a draft day trade to kind of move up or down the board. Dallas Goedert is the player, in my opinion, it's the most likely to get dealt this year. But I think moving forward, Jordan Davis is that kind of guy that I think could get moved, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I just think you'd keep him around for one more year. You keep Jalen Carter steady. Once you know Jalen Carter is on the up and up, he has enough respect for Nolan Smith and Kobe Dean. I think that you can still keep him on the right path there, and then you give him the big contract, and maybe you move on from his best buddy that lines up next to him.
I agree.
Broad, Joey, you guys got anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, good.
No, I think that the Eagles right now, I mean, they just need to focus nothing about the offense, just focus on getting the corners, safeties, starting to build some depth, and definitely build some depth on the defensive line, because and those two spots you're bare. But other than that, they don't need to go crazy. They don't need to trade up and do all these massive trades. They just need to go out there, pick smart, and start to build some depth with the defense, because it's gutted.
Well said. Benny, anything you want to say before we wrap up?
I have one hot take that I've been kicking around in my head, and it really picked up over this past couple of weeks when I found out that Jalen Milroe is going to be invited to the NFL draft. And it's this. I think of all the quarterbacks in this draft, Jalen Milroe will have the best career. I don't know what's drawing me to say that, but I just think Jalen Milroe is going to end up with the best career, because I think the team's going to take him and not start him for a few years. And that's exactly what the Colts should have done with Anthony Richardson. And I think if that happens with Jalen Milroe, in 3 years, you're going to see Jalen Milroe as one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's my final hot take to close the show.
Well, there it is. Well, that was our 2025 draft preview show. I appreciate everyone who was new here tuning in. Daniel, I got to say, this is the first time I've seen you here. I really appreciate you tuning in all show with us. If you haven't, please be sure to smash that subscribe button. Those little things really mean a ton for us. And that's all we got. We might be going live draft night. I'm still not 100% sure how that's all going to work. If I can get somebody to co-host with me and I am up for the challenge of draft night, we will see. But I think I might do something. Maybe I'll just go live for the second half of picks or something like that. So stay tuned. We'll also be doing reactions after. And like I said, Daniel, be sure to give a subscription to us. Also give our boy Broad Street Sports a subscription as well and a follow. Appreciate you coming on here with us tonight. And we'll see you guys soon. Take care.
This is for you.
All roads lead through the playoffs and Phil.